We all know that MAGA is a cult and that something really, really bad has to happen for any spineless Republican to step out against their cult leader. And that really bad thing at the moment is the stupidest trade war in history that Donald Trump is waging against our allies while raising prices at home. And Republicans are calling it out because it is so damaging to their constituents who are raising their voices against them. And we have seen not just one, but two prominent Republicans, one who is a Trump appointee, call out Donald Trump for this disastrous tariff agenda. And of course, he is furious about it. We are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into those call outs, first, I want to hear someone who perfectly summed up Donald Trump's economic failures. That's Bernie Sanders right here.
And let's be clear. Not only did Trump fail to talk about some of the most important issues facing the working class of America, but the solutions, in quote, he proposed would only make a bad situation even worse. Yep, I did hear Trump talk tonight about some tax breaks for working families in terms of not taxing tips, not taxing Social Security, and not taxing overtime. Fine. But that is chump change compared to the benefits he's going to give to the 1%. And it doesn't tell the whole story about his tax policies. According to a recent study by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, if all of Trump's so-called America First policies are enacted, including his tariffs, which he spoke a lot about tonight, the bottom 95% of Americans will see their taxes go up, while the richest 5% in our country will see their taxes go down, way down. Tonight, in so many words, Trump urged Congress to pass his big, beautiful budget. Do you know what's really in it? This budget would cut Medicaid by $880 billion. Oh, I guess Trump forgot to talk about that. $880 billion cut in Medicaid. According to one estimate, it means that up to 36 million Americans, including millions of children, would be thrown off the health insurance they have. Hey, a 90-minute speech tonight, not one word about throwing millions of kids off of the health insurance they have. When you cut Medicaid drastically, it means that nursing homes that receive 2/3 of their funding from Medicaid will either have to shut down, lay off workers, or significantly scale back the services they provide seniors. Gee, I didn't hear that from Trump tonight either. It would be a devastating blow, these cuts to Medicaid, for the 32 million Americans who get their health care at community health centers. And it's not just Medicaid that Trump's budget would cut. It would also cut nutrition assistance by at least $230 billion. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. And can you imagine? The billionaire class, people who can support their families. Some of these guys have tens of billions of dollars. Support their families for the next 10 generations, 50 generations. People who live in incredible opulence. People who own their own jet planes. They own their own private islands. They own their own spaceships. Trying to get tax breaks by taking food out of the mouths of low-income kids.
Donald Trump ran a campaign on cutting prices, making things cheaper, making a booming economy that was created under President Biden better somehow, which doesn't really make any sense because Donald Trump was the one who screwed up the economy in the first place, and he's doing it once again. Like he said, bringing back inflation, which inherently, in him admitting that he has brought back inflation, said that President Biden brought it down. Donald Trump has screwed his own constituents in a way we have never seen before, and it's the reason Republicans are calling him out, because it's, again, not just raising prices, but it's also cutting essential programs that make life livable for people, give them health care, keep them fed and housed. And so, like I said, Republicans of all shapes and sizes in elected and appointed office are coming out against Donald Trump, and we see two examples of that right here. GOP senator suggests Trump may need to retreat on tariffs. When we start losing, you back off. A growing chorus of Republican senators are expressing concern about Donald Trump's on-again, off-again tariffs on Canada and Mexico, the two largest trading partners of the U.S. On February 1st, Trump announced he would impose 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, effective February 4th. 2 days later, he announced a one-month pause before the tariffs went into effect on March 4th. A tariff of 10% on Chinese imports also took effect the next day. Trump paused tariffs on automobiles at the request of the big three U.S. automakers as well. On March 6th, though, the president announced a halt on tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods that are compliant with the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, which he signed in his first term. Almost every industry in Kentucky has come to me and said, I will hurt our industry and push up prices of homes, cars, and so I'm going to continue to argue against tariffs, Senator Rand Paul told CNN on Thursday. Asked if Trump should back off if it starts to hurt your constituents, Senator Tom Tillis answered in the affirmative. When we start losing, you back off. There's such thing as a strategic retreat. Additionally, even Trump appointees are admitting tariffs will raise prices for Americans. The chair of the Federal Reserve warned Friday the administration, who campaigned on egg prices being too high, has ushered in policies that will only increase inflation. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, appointed by Donald Trump in his first term, said tariffs on Mexico, China, and Canada will raise prices for everyday Americans. We are at a stage where we're still very uncertain about what will be tariffed for how long and at what level, Powell said Friday, according to ABC, but the likelihood is some of that will find its way. It will hit the exporters, the importers, the retailers, and to some extent consumers. Those are very strong words coming from the nation's top central banker, who is tasked with keeping inflation as low as possible. So there you have it, folks. What we have been saying all along. As I promised, and as you know, this is the "we told you so" presidency. We warned MAGA about the disaster that would be the Trump economy. We warned MAGA about the stupidest trade war in history that was to come. Donald Trump already launched a stupid trade war in 2019 against China. Don't we remember this? Don't we remember all of the conversation about how Christmas presents were going to be more expensive because all the Chinese goods that were hiked up in price because of that trade war? We had seen this before. We're seeing it again, and it's causing problems within Donald Trump's own administration. But it's not the only example of that happening, because Elon Musk and the rest of Donald Trump's cabinet are also doing a little bit of their own infighting. And we can hear more about that from Ari Melber right here.
And it is a bombshell. The Times reports that Musk basically ended up in a clash, a conflict with much of the cabinet. And that was Thursday this week. And laced into these other officials, some of whom are important, right? If you're picked to run the State Department, you are a pretty important official within the government. And just to put it clearly, we are talking right now about an unelected billionaire sitting in on these important meetings and going at people in very intense terms. And the substance matters, as well as, quite frankly, the emotion and the gossip of this, because it's all part of how this government is being run. Musk going at Secretary of State Rubio, according to the New York Times, basically saying that Rubio was not firing anybody. Quote, "You have fired nobody." And Rubio responds, "What about the more than 1,500 State Department officials who took early retirement in buyouts? Didn't they count as layoffs?" Rubio asking then sarcastically if Musk wanted him to rehire all those people just so he could make a show of firing them again. These are two people at odds over the department that Rubio runs, and the subtext there is about who is being honest or accurate and who is just trying to put on a show. Musk then, the Times reports, was, quote, unimpressed and told Rubio actually he was the show, that he was, quote, good on TV. The subtext, the Times says, being that he was not good for much else. And let's be clear, both of these men have risen in their careers through some aspect of public show. Rubio ran for president. Musk was on the campaign trail. He's made himself into a big deal out in public, but that's how they deride each other in private, basically saying, you're not for real. No, you're not for real. No, you just do it on TV. Here we are talking about it on TV. Now, the Times reports the meeting was actually hastily scheduled because Trump's cabinet members, again, the most important people he's picked to run the agencies, had reached a kind of breaking point about what they call Elon Musk's chainsaw approach here to the cuts. And the meeting was in the cabinet room. The president was presiding, 20 officials attending. Then the Veterans Affairs Secretary, Doug Collins, using this opportunity to go after the way Musk has fired veterans and officials who work at the VA. We heard from one this week, for example. And what's interesting here, as you're going to see, is the dissent, the concern is internal. It's not just people protesting or people who've been ousted from the government. This is Trump's pick for the VA, saying Musk should not wield a blunt instrument and cleave off everyone from Veterans Affairs. They need to be strategic. Then you have Sean Duffy, who runs transportation, also going at Musk. What am I supposed to do, Mr. Duffy says, according to the Times report here. I have multiple plane crashes to deal with now. And your people want me to fire air traffic controllers? The question kind of makes the argument that that sounds absurd, dangerous even. And Musk then responds to that logical sounding question and says, well, Duffy's basically a liar. Quote, Mr. Musk told Mr. Duffy his assertion was a lie. And throughout all of this, the Times reports that a president who, of course, used to do pretend boardroom meetings on his reality show, Trump sat back in his chair, arms folded as if he were watching a tennis match. The meeting ended. Trump said that he does support Musk's ongoing cuts, but that cabinet members are supposed to run their agencies. And he said something that is actually a restoration of what the rules are supposed to be, and it is a sign of dysfunction, and many experts would say failure, that the president, with all his power, had to say this out loud. I really want to emphasize this because it's extraordinary reporting. That's why we're leaving it up on the screen. The Times with quite a scoop here. Quote, from now on, Trump said, the secretaries would be in charge. The Musk team would only advise. Translation? That is a demotion for Elon Musk.
Now, I talked about this in a video 2 days ago, and it was about Elon Musk essentially being fired from his job of firing people. And what I pointed out in that video was a post that Donald Trump made when he made this announcement, right? And he ended it by saying, everyone is very happy with each other. All of the relationships are so good. And what clearer example of a lie can we find than that? When you have to continually assert that everything is A-okay, it's bound to be the opposite. We see the crumbling of this administration start to happen, and boy, are we going to excitedly follow it every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.